Three, two,
1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VIP Collective, the Big Day mini-series edition of the podcast. I am your host, Corinne McDonald, and today we are sitting with a new face who is known as Jaycee Newman. Hello, Jaycee.
Hi.
Now, for anyone who is listening, Jaycee is the studio manager for the 5ive15 photo company, who's an amazing photography company who we had on season 1, episode number 2 of the podcast, where we chatted with studio owners, Mike Karinji and Eric Forsyth, and heard all about their story, all about 5ive15. So to check out their story, be sure to head over and watch that on season 1, episode number 2. And today we are sitting with Jaycee Newman, who is their studio manager, as she is going to take us through the top 10 tips that every bride should know before their wedding day. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So am I. Because photography is such a big component of a wedding day. It is like one of the biggest,
I would say.
Aside from video.
Yeah. Equal.
But it's a really big deal. And I think a lot of people, they invest a lot of time searching for their photographer. And there's a lot of information that people don't even realize before their wedding day. And we'll get into it, but there's some tips that I think could really help some people out, especially when they're choosing photography, and also just what they should be doing before their big day and what they shouldn't be doing before their big day. So before we get into the top 10 list, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry, when you got into the industry, and why you love it?
Yeah. So I got into the industry about 4 years ago. Ellie, our friend, actually got me into the industry. I moved here, which maybe not a lot of people know, but I moved here from Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas.
Yep, all the lights.
So wait, before we go any further, because I did just experience Vegas last year, I do have to know, did you grew up in Las Vegas?
No, so I actually grew up in San Diego, and then I was living in Vegas the last 6 years before I moved here. So
what was that experience like?
Oh, wow. It was fun. It was so fun. It was so hot. So unbelievably hot all the time. But what a lot of people don't know is that actually Vegas, it gets snowy in the winter. Their snow actually comes, which people are so confused because it's like the desert. Not every year, but it does happen. So I moved here 5 years ago, and I grew up there, and then I was always in events there in Vegas and stuff, but not weddings. So my intro to weddings was through Ellie when I moved here, and so
What kind of events were you doing in Las Vegas?
So a lot of music stuff. I did some sports stuff, which is kind of funny because I'm not into sports at all. But I found some fun in it, like the logistics and all that. And then so weddings was totally new to me. But now the last few years, I've totally embraced it, and it's a big passion of mine.
It's really fun. It's one thing about weddings, I think, especially working in the industry, is you see the love and you get to be a part of someone's experience. And also this day that is created specifically for that one couple. And once that day ends, that experience is gone. And so it's very unique to that couple, to the family. And so that's what's really, I think, a cool feature, cool outlook on weddings, and being in this industry is definitely something that's really neat about it. But
and for me, if people were to ask what are your favorite parts of your job, and it's definitely the beginning, because you get to hear about the story for the first time, and I love learning about where'd you meet, where'd you get engaged, what part of town do you live in, I love all that stuff. But then that second piece would be actually giving the photos is really cool too,
for sure,
because I feel it's just here. It's everything we talked about a year previously or 2 years previously. It's really cool.
So you are a studio manager with 5ive15. So you've been meeting with all of the couples, and you've been you've been hearing their stories.
Yeah, that's always. I always have 3 or 4 major questions that I always ask. So I meet with all the couples. They come in usually about an hour. Obviously, things have been kind of funky with COVID life, so a lot of Zoom. But whenever that consultation is, just really getting to know them and their story, and just just talking about what they do for their weekends. That's always fun too. just to kind of get their personalities going. And I think that really helps to like working in a studio sense to kind of pair up the right couple with the right photographer, and kind of, so it's really fun. I get to be the first, and then I get to like also tell the team like, last night I met with like the best couple ever, like this story. It's like so cool. Even going through, actually we're just going through an engagement session from Muskoka, and it was a couple that I really got to know. I spent a lot of time with them, and even just going through them, like I like was like, like telling the team, I was like, they like, you know, he works here, she does this, and this is how they met at a coffee shop, like on Fluke. And anyway, it's just like really cool to kind of follow the story of like these really important times in their life, which engagement and wedding, and their background story.
I think it's really important to learn that story, because like that is something that we always ask the story, and you as well, because then a lot of times you'll see on the wedding day something from their story gets incorporated into their wedding day somehow. And so from a storytelling perspective, from both photo and video, it's very nice to know those details ahead of time, because you can then tell that story based on that information.
Yeah, it gives you a little extra.
A little bit of extra. So today we're talking photography tips, and the idea is to let people know what they should know before their wedding day, what they should be asking their photographers, and also just even a little checklist to say, oh, I probably shouldn't do that if my wedding is in 2 days, and we'll get into what that might be.
Don't do that.
But so we're going to do it a little bit like a straightforward top 10. I'm going to ask you, and let's start at number 10. What is, should we get drum roll? Tip number 10 from the photography team at 515, and go.
Okay, so definitely thinking about your getting ready location, I would say is number 10. You always want to have natural light, bright, enough space to accommodate for hair and makeup, your bridal party to get ready, you know, precious shooting time. We don't want to be cleaning up any rooms or anything like that, so try to finding enough space. And also if you have any important little details, having those all ready ahead of time so that we can like focus on getting those shot as well.
So even maybe giving somebody like a maid of honor or a mom or someone from the extended family saying, can you collect all the details and have them ready for when the photographer and videographer show up?
Exactly.
Might be an idea, right?
I like it.
I like that. And it's and we have touched on natural light quite a bit on the podcast, just because it's so important.
Most important. Yeah.
And I've said this a few times, but I know it can be confusing sometimes when people think they have a house and they're going to turn on all the lamps and all the lights. And that's something that we're going to like, because we're going to have, because they're providing light.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we come in, we're going to turn off all the lights. We're going to turn off the lamps, and we're going to try and be as close to the window. And this is not only for photo video, but this is also for your makeup team. Your hair and makeup likes to see you in natural light. So the closer you are to a window, that's where we prefer you to be. Lamps don't necessarily help us. And that comes into kind of the scientific world of just colors of lights and kelvins. And there's a lot of, details we won't get into.
Ambient light.
But the safest and the most natural light and the most beautiful photos and beautiful videos are going to come when you have window light, natural light. So even if you are scouting your hotel or your prep location beforehand, it's always good to really take a look at the light and the space. The space is also very important.
Yeah, I always actually tell couples who are like very unsure, they're like, I don't know, hotel, Airbnb, like they're unsure generally in the very beginning. And I'm like, send me links. Like, I'm happy to see links, because like, at least, I'm happy to like give suggestions and be like, oh my gosh, this Airbnb is perfect, enough room for you guys. It's also got lots of natural light, because windows always, yes, I completely agree. So
they always win. So that might be another tip then. So sending your photographer your links to the places you're considering, or getting input from your photographer on whether they've shot there and what their experience was.
Yeah.
A hot tip.
I like that one.
Okay, hit us with number 9.
Okay, number 9 is bridesmaids getting ready photos. So, chatting about like, do you guys want to have coordinating pajamas, or is it robes? And also like, do you want to have a little bubbly in the morning as well? So just having that, making sure, it's 5:15 somewhere. So
I hope you get that on. I hope you get that on a shirt or on a robe.
It is.
On a robe.
Imagine. That'd be so good. But yeah, and just having all those little things ready for you and your bridesmaids, because I find like girls always love looking back at their photos, like them and all their besties, or like sometimes their mom or mother-in-law, like, I don't know, in the cute little matchy robes, and clinking glasses and having a good time in the morning. So just think about that too, because I feel like those photos are always some of my favorite of like in the morning as well. And also some that do really great in an album.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And they're really cute moments. And I think it's important because they can happen quickly, because what happens is everyone's getting their hair and makeup done. And then we get into photos, and that's right before the bride's about to get her dress on. So it can be good if you are going to request those photos to potentially put in a little buffer in your timeline, just to say, you know, give us an extra, a little bit of time so we can capture a few of those.
Yeah.
Because it moves quick.
So quick.
So quick. All right. What's number 8?
Number 8 is deciding if you want to first look with your partner. It's a huge one, I think.
How do you feel about first look?
I love a first look. I mean, for me, I think it's all about getting that really authentic reaction. And sometimes I feel like if the couple is alone and they don't have like hundreds of their guests watching them, they're generally going to be really themselves, or like not themselves, but just authentic. Like they're going to really be in the moment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you get really great reactions, and as well as like on a logistical standpoint, like just being able to like really enjoy your cocktail hour. Again, the night goes by so quickly. So like, why not, you know, spend that extra hour, hour and a half with your guest? Because it's just, you know, I mean, it's not for everyone, but you know, if I had the choice, for me, I wouldn't want to go and take that time away to go take photos. Me and my partner, I'm sure neither of us would be fully into it. Right. We'd be like, we want to go have a drink at the bar with our friends, you know? Yeah. So it is good to get it. I personally vote yes, but it's not for everyone. And I think that's okay too. But there are also like so many good reasons why. We can make a whole top 10 list why.
I know.
Maybe.
That's true. Okay, what do we have for number 7?
Okay, number 7. So this one's kind of a funny one. Don't go to the tanning salon right before. Don't get any crazy haircuts. Don't try anything, you know, too new. I feel like be your authentic self on the day. It should be a representation of you. And so trying anything like just really different out of the box, or like having, I don't know, you don't want to go to like lay out the weekend before and have these crazy tan lines with your crazy bathing suit, and then you can see them in your dress. So just, thinking about that, like kind of leading up to the day, and you don't want to dye your hair blue, you know?
Unless you do.
Unless you do. That is totally cool too.
Yeah.
But nothing too crazy. Unless, that's your thing, right?
Yeah. So maybe like, I guess 1 month before the wedding is when you're really going to kind of be a little bit more cautious when it comes to tanning, or even a spray tan if you haven't had one before. I guess you never know kind of the drips and lines.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
Things that happen. So that's always something to be aware of. And then haircuts. I think a good fresh haircut should be reserved for maybe 2 months prior to the wedding, so that it can kind of grow out a little more natural.
Yeah, I like that. I would agree, like spray tan, all the way agree with you, Corinne. Like definitely give it a couple tries before.
Now this isn't something I've never had a spray tan. I'm very ginger.
Yep.
But I think if I was going to do that or go down that route, I would have to at least test it out before I committed to it on a wedding day.
For sure. I would definitely agree. Maybe 2 rounds of testing even.
Probably 2 rounds. And there would be even a chance with a spray tan that you could get it on your dress. Wouldn't there be?
Oh, 100%. Because if it's not, like, I've had them before years ago. And if you, like, it's still a little wet, or if you sweat, definitely. It will definitely, especially on something white, for sure. And I would say even like post-production wise, like if you're not happy with that spray tan, it's really hard to kind of edit around that. So, you know.
Very good point.
And that's the colors and stuff, something to think about. But it would definitely rub off for sure.
Okay, hit us with number 6.
Okay, visuals. And like, I don't know, I'm sure if you've been wedding planning, bride or groom, you've definitely been saving, sharing photos from Instagram, from Pinterest. I would love, anyone from the team would love to see that. I think, 515, we definitely have our style. We definitely have our aesthetic, being in the industry as long as we have. But, this is your day. And like, I think it's time for us to come together and collaborate almost. And, I want to see what inspires you or what you've envisioned. So I always think that's really important. And I also think, looking for a photographer that's willing to, collaborate with you, and also just like want to see what excites you about your wedding day, or the shots that really moved you or that you're wanting to have. I always say I'm the biggest mood board girl for sure.
And so if you had booked a couple, when would you want them to send those mood boards? Like at what point do they really start getting interactive with the photography team about what the shots are that they're looking for? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 weeks?
Yeah. So I would definitely I encourage if they have any photos, like when they come in for the initial consultation, just to see it. Cause I kind of want to see like maybe the work that I would show them, just because we have shot so many different weddings. So it's good to kind of see like what is their vibe. But in terms of before the wedding, we always go over like detailed timeline, shot list, all that good stuff. So that's a great time to kind of show those photos. But you're going to be meeting your photographer either at your engagement session beforehand or, you know, before the wedding day. So share those or send them, you know, via email, however that is. But yeah, definitely along with all the other stuff beforehand. Nothing too far out in advance.
Right.
I think as visual creators, you know, photographers, videographers, like speaking to us with visual things is always the best too. Cause like you said, in words, it's really hard to be like, I want, you know, light and airy, or that's not a good example, but like, you know, I don't know, you just want a certain thing and we're like, what is that? You know, like we all explain work in a different way. So I always find like visuals is always the best.
Yeah, I think that's one thing about a lot of this industry is that most of us, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of us are probably visual learners, like being in video, being in photo, like visuals, what we are accustomed to, what we're used to, and how we learn. So it's really good to share images as opposed to talking about it or sending an email about it. It's definitely better.
Yeah, totally.
To send those images.
I agree.
All right, hit us with number 5.
So it's choosing locations that logistically make sense for your timeline.
My favorite topic.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't want to be, I mean, listen, if you really want something, it's only X away. Like, you know, we're going to go there, we're pumped, but you don't want to go somewhere maybe an hour and a half out of the way. I just think you want to enjoy your day. You don't want to be stuck in traffic.
But the other option, and this is probably, maybe you get these questions a lot, is if they're in a church and then they say they want to go to a park and say they send you some inspiration of park photos, then you guys are able to say, well, we know a park in the area. That would be 100%. Perfect. And I think that's what's really cool. So do you get a lot of people consulting you about locations and where to go? Or do most people already have it set, this is where we want to go?
Oh, no. Well, actually, even there's a lot of people that, again, kind of what you said, that have a special meaning to a place. Like U of T is a big one for couples. So they definitely have a sense of what they want. But if there is something really similar to a look that I'm like, oh, have you guys heard of this spot? And they're like, oh, we haven't. I'm like, great. Sometimes I have couples that are just like, we have no idea, but yeah, we want something that's like park vibe or greenery or, you know, architecture. Then definitely, you know, we bounce off of it all the time. Like, you know, we all have an extensive knowledge of some good locations in and around Toronto and outside of Toronto. But sometimes I'll even all the time, Mike or, you know, Connor will be like, hey, you know, do you know this location where they're getting married here? And they're like, oh yeah, there's that one spot. So like, yeah, we definitely bounce it off of each other. And we have like a whole document too that's like, anytime we have a new spot, it's like we go list it on our like photo locations as well, so we don't forget. We're always documenting stuff because a lot of couples, you know, only know of 1 or 2 places from where their friends got married. Maybe.
For sure. And being in the industry for so long, we've seen a few different places. So, you know, and I think the photographers are usually the ones that have that magical grid that you're talking about of all the locations.
Yeah, so, the magical one.
The magical grid. And that's what comes with when you hire a professional team, you're going to get a little bit more variety because they've been in the industry so long. So they're going to have more suggestions, things like that.
Totally.
Awesome. So number 4.
Engagement sessions.
So
engagement sessions are something so great to do with your photographer before the big day, you know, having that icebreaker. And, you know, you can totally meet them before, but I think there's something different about actually like having the camera in hand and giving direction and you guys receiving direction. And as well as even after having the photos too, like going back and like, you may be like, oh, I don't really like that angle of myself, or like, I really love that, or I understand why we got this particular direction. And you can really apply that for the wedding day. And they're like a ton of fun to like get to know your photographer too. So when they show up on the wedding day, you're like, hey, like we've done this before, you know, like we've, you know, had a chance to take photos and get to know each other. So I think it's super important.
And typically how many hours would an engagement session be?
So we do anywhere from a 45 minutes to a 90-minute session. Those are like 2 packages, but our 45-minute sessions sound short, but it's great for couples who like maybe never envisioned having an engagement session, or maybe it's just, I don't know, not their thing, or but they really want that opportunity to get to know the photographer. So we wanted to create like a package that was like slightly smaller. So they, again, had that chance, but didn't maybe commit to 90 minutes, you know, which generally can do about 2 outfits in 2 locations nearby. So I think the 45 minutes is that perfect get to know your photographer, go out and shoot one location, one outfit.
Definitely. And it's just the right amount of time to, like you said, get comfortable with your photographer. It's not a half-day shoot. It's not a full-day shoot. It's just kind of a little intro piece.
Yeah, so a little preview.
A little preview, exactly. So there's outfit changes even, potentially.
And engagement?
Yeah.
Yeah. So outfit changes in the 90 minutes. So generally like one casual outfit and then one dressy is what I usually suggest. And then, generally 2 locations nearby each other is something that has a lot of variety.
And are they typically shot either early morning or later evening? Are those kind of your golden hours?
That's always the goal. But we do a lot of golden hour stuff. And we also do like sunrise because it's the magic hour.
Yeah. Both of them.
Yeah, both of them.
Hit us with number 3.
Planning a backup location for bad weather.
Ooh, this is a good one. I like this topic.
Yeah. Always, like, Toronto's so unpredictable. So especially in the summers sometimes and in the fall. So it's always good to have a backup plan. You feel good. We feel good. We know we're going to get great photos no matter what. So it's great. Maybe where you plan on having your family photos if they were going to be outside. So just like for that, I would say, picking a spot maybe in the venue for you and your family, and then maybe having an indoor location for your creative. Sometimes it like rains a little bit. So if you're down to get a little misty, it's okay. But if you have to make the call on a really, really rainy day, it's good to have a plan B.
So do you typically ask the couple prior to the wedding day, like, what is your plan B?
Well, we'll usually kind of look at, at them kind of knowing what the weather is, or we'll pick a location that maybe has indoor and outdoor aspects to it.
Right.
And then we'll kind of have some places in and around the area that we will be prepared. Obviously, weather is so unpredictable. So sometimes it's like looking at the weather like a week before and then making the call and be like, okay, we need a plan B now.
Okay. So
just always thinking about that, especially winter. I would say mostly you'd always want to have a plan B, like late fall. But I'd say for summer, you'd want to kind of wait until that happens.
Alrighty, number 2.
Okay. So shot list. Let's definitely create these minimum 4 weeks before your wedding. So no last minute brides and grooms. I think it's great to also, have an organizer from your family, someone who kind of knows all the players in the game and can kind of help us, maybe call your aunt over, your grandmother. So if you kind of have that designated person, that is so helpful for us. Obviously we don't, I'm sure by then we'll know moms and dads and really, close family members, but kind of maybe more extended family. Having that family member is really, really, really helpful for us and keeps it really efficient to get especially if you have a lot of extended family photos, we can really knock those out quickly.
Photos will take up some time after the ceremony. And so if you can make them as efficient as possible by having a family member there who, like you said, knows everyone and can say, hey, Jimmy, hey, Grandma, let's move it.
Jimmy. I love that.
There's always Jimmy.
There's always a Jimmy. Yeah.
There's always Jimmy. So if you have somebody that's expediting that process, then it'll just be more efficient and things are going to run a lot smoother.
Carefully curating your detailed timeline with your photographer. It really keeps us on the same page. We both know what's going to happen. We both know on the day what's going to happen. And also something I always say that we love, because as we talked about earlier, golden hour is the best hour. If you can add that into your timeline somewhere, even if it's 10 minutes during your, dinner time or anything like that, but finding some time to do those things will make you feel really good. 'Cause you're like, I'm going to get those really beautiful shots. And then just, making sure that even travel gets accounted for, little buffers here and there, I think is really, really important. So
buffers are so important. And
always.
We've talked about this, and it's just those few minutes that are planned for the unknown. It could be a traffic jam. They're someone on the podcast talked about there was a family that was stuck in an elevator. And just before a photo shoot.
I think I know. Yeah. Okay.
So there's just moments that you don't expect to happen. So a tiny buffer in between, if it's supposed to take 20 minutes to get from one location to the other, maybe make it 30. Because you also could get in a conversation just before you get in the car. And that's going to then delay. Anything can happen.
You keep talking to Jimmy, you'll never be on time.
If Jimmy holds you up, you'll never get in the car.
There's always a Jimmy that holds you up. There is always.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's really true. Buffers are super important. There's no question. And consulting your photography team, your video team, and just letting them know your timeline, they can advise you. I think that's the biggest thing is that, yourself and myself, we can at least advise like, well, we do need a little bit more time here or there.
Yeah. And so much changes too. Like I find like sometimes I'm pretty accurate with my rough timelines in the beginning when I talk to a couple, but things change. Sometimes your ceremony time changes. Sometimes you didn't anticipate having as many, family pictures or something like that. So it's always good, like right before, to really carefully do a more detailed one with your photographer. Because so much things change in your planning process over the, couple of years. So, or 1 year.
Definitely. Yeah. We had an experience a couple of years ago where one of our grooms, he was planning the logistics of the day. And so he had told the bride to be there, let's say it was 1:00. And the ceremony actually wasn't until 1:45. He wanted to extend the time so that he knew she would be leaving the house thinking the ceremony was at 1. So that everything would run on time. So that was kind of a little trick. But it goes to show how well he knew her to say, okay, I'm telling you it's going to be at 1, but it's actually at 1:30.
That's so funny. That is so like something Adam, my partner, would do 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be like, it's at 2. It's really at 1. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially doing hair and makeup, you get caught up. You got your talking to Jimmy's again,
They're everywhere. So not a terrible idea to even mentally prepare yourself for 30 minutes prior to when it's actually scheduled for.
Totally.
Let's hear tip number 1 for what every bride should know from their photographer before their wedding day.
Tip number 1 is stay present, stay relaxed, trust the vendors that you chose, and trust your photographer. We have done so much work beforehand. We've seen those mood boards, shot lists, timeline, all that good stuff. So just be present. I know it's really hard because there's so much going on, but just, relaxing and trusting, I think, is the best tip we could give you.
Well, the day goes so fast.
Thanks.
You were going to say that?
I was going to say that. Yep.
Yeah. The day goes fast, and I think like you'll wake up the next morning and go, oh, instead of worrying about things maybe that they were concerned about, they can actually just say, oh, I actually enjoyed my dinner. I sat down and enjoyed laughs and conversations with people on my wedding day instead of worrying about things that needed to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Because those are like, that's when you wake up the next day, those are the things that you think about.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time to jump on here and talk us through the top 10 things that everyone should know, especially if they're getting married, when they're talking to the photographers, things they should look at having and discussing with them. Very important. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. For anyone who hasn't popped over to the 515 website, please do so because they're a very talented team and you should know who they are. So thank you, Jaycee, for spending your time with us today. And I hope to see you out in the real world very soon.
Yes.